I'm Diana Wentworth, and I'm so excited to be with you. I'm the co-founder of the Inside Edge Foundation for Education. It's been a forum for thought leaders and all kinds of people who are activists in the world where they meet and greet and expand who they are. And we've been recording 1,500 of our past speakers. And we're going to take the very best of these and offer them on our YouTube channel. We're starting to post them weekly. So what you want to do is go to our YouTube channel and to subscribe to it, and you'll get all kinds of information about what we're offering. It's so thrilling to be offering this legacy to you now. It feels really good. Now I have the great honor of introducing Peter Hlavin, who is an Inside Edge member. We're so grateful for that. And this is going to be such a fun morning. It's completely different than we've ever done at the Inside Edge before. So Peter's going to be the moderator, and he's going to discuss his calling to walk the Camino and the personal transformation that resulted in his reinvention as a songwriter, which we get to experience today too. A visual artist and executive producer of integrative shows that combine artwork, song, and painting. Peter will introduce 3 guest pilgrims, all of whom have walked the Camino, with one pilgrim having made the Camino trek 11 times. So let's just strap on our boots and join the journey for an entertaining and personal Camino along the way. Here's Peter.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you very much, Diana and Robin, for that warm introduction. I'm really, really excited to be here today because we're all going to go on a journey, and I'm going to be your guide. And we're going to talk about stories of personal transformation on this walk called El Camino de Santiago in Spain. And so let's strap on our boots, and we're going to put on our backpacks, and we're going on a journey. Before I get going, I want to talk a little bit, we touched on it briefly, who, what, when, where, and why. The what is El Camino? Again, it's a 1,200-year-old footpath that begins in the southwest portion of France, cuts across northern Spain, and heads up in the northwest corner of Spain at a city called Santiago de Compostela. It's in a region of Galicia. Galicia is like a county in the United States. So let's say it's like Orange County or LA County. And this road is about 500 miles long, and it's been traveled by kings and popes. The next question is, who the heck is Santiago? Well, let's break it apart. San means saint. Tiago means James. It's Saint James. It's Saint James the Apostle, one of 12 apostles of Christ. So let's talk a little bit about, well, how's this all fit in? Well, where? Well, following Christ's death, the apostles divided up regions, and Santiago was responsible for the peninsula called the Iberian Peninsula, which is what we know now today as Spain and Portugal. For whatever reason, Santiago left Spain, went back towards Jerusalem. Unfortunately, King Herod got a hold of him and executed him. His remains then were brought back in a boat and buried in this region called Galicia. Unfortunately, his remains were forgotten for about 800 years. And then his tomb was discovered, and suddenly pilgrims from all over Europe began walking towards Santiago. A city sprung up around the tomb, and eventually a cathedral was built on top of Santiago's tomb. So currently about 250,000 to 300,000 people make this journey annually. And it ebbs and flows depending on the times. During Franco's Spanish dictatorship, pilgrimage obviously waned. But some people wrote some books. Most recently, Paulo Coelho, who's the author of The Pilgrimage and The Alchemist. He actually traveled on this Camino and wrote a book about it, and that increased its popularity as well. So now we get to, well, why the heck did I walk this Camino? Well, during the summer and spring of 2017, I found myself in a total mess, emotionally, physically, spiritually, classic stuff, divorce, lost my job, betrayed by a friend, lots of other issues. So one day I found myself at Barnes & Noble bookstore, and I was walking out and I saw this book. It's called The Alchemist. And so I said, on a whim, well, I'll read that book. And later that evening, I decided to read it, and I was sitting in bed alone, and I was about 20% through the book, and out of my mouth comes the words, "Follow the path." I jumped out of bed, and I thought, well, that's significant, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper, "Follow the path," and I'm scratching my head like, well, to where? And next thing I know, out of my mouth comes, "To righteousness." So I put that together, follow the path to righteousness. That was a calling. And at that time, I thought, well, looks like I'm heading to Jerusalem. So I told this story to a friend of mine over dinner about a week later, and he didn't laugh. And as a matter of fact, he goes, you know, well, there's 3 Christian pilgrimages that are really popular in Europe, or there's 3 popular pilgrimages. One is to Jerusalem. Another one is to Rome. And the last one, well, I can't remember that, but there was a movie done on it, and Emilio Estevez and Martin Sheen were the key actors. So later that night, I went back to my home and I researched it, and here it is, The Way. Otherwise, it's called The Way, but it's also known as El Camino de Santiago, the Way of Santiago. So I thought, well, that's interesting. And then next morning, I was exercising, and I had just moved to Lake Forest, California. And I thought, you know, I need to go to church. So I walked over to my church, and as I'm walking it up, the church is on a hillside. And as I'm walking up, I look, and there's a banner across the church, you know, its name, Santiago de Compostela. Well, if that wasn't a calling, I don't know what it was. It certainly, we talk about coincidences. I don't think this was a coincidence. Well, what I did then is I went back and I researched a travel agency, and I found Marley Camino, who is a sponsor of our group today, and she'll talk a little bit about her transformation later. And I booked my trip. So 30 days later, I jumped on a plane, I landed in Spain, and was walking Camino de Santiago. What the Camino did for me, it was allowed me to press my personal reset button. I initially chose an arrow titled love. And what I learned is that I needed to inside out. I started with love of self, and then I could morph to others, and certainly a higher divine being. And so what I got out of my Camino was I was able to fill a lot of personal gaps. And I was able to do this through a lot of reflection. You're walking a lot alone on the Camino, and then you're also walking with others. There was intention. I was living in the moment. I was listening to the stories of others on the Camino. What I learned about that is, if I thought I had it bad, boy, you should hear some of these stories. They had it even worse. I learned about giving, and I also had a lot of fun. And I always say that I've never had so much fun suffering. And one of the best outcomes of my Camino is that I made friends. When I got back, suddenly there was this outpouring of creativity. I had done artwork in the past and so forth, but suddenly I started writing all these songs. I have no musical training. I don't play an instrument. I don't sing, and I can't read music. But I started writing, and I kept writing and writing and writing. And out of that, I learned that I'm a good storyteller. I effectively worked with a lot of people to collaborate. I think Matt Thorne is on our show today. He's a producer, and he really has helped with my music. And out of that, I created uplifting, spirited songs that are designed to inspire others to continue moving forward. Take that next step. Even if it's step by step, just keep going forward. So now, that's why I did it. That answers the reason why. But what I like to do now is I'd like to introduce other guest speakers who can share with you their transformational stories. And I'm going to start with Marley Mucci Ramos. As I previously mentioned, I booked my Camino through Marley Camino, and it's based in Madrid, Spain. And she's here today to share with us her story. Later, after she speaks, later in the program, we'll have Alex Melser, and he's head of operations for Marley Camino, and he'll talk a little bit about the Camino experience and what to expect from a Marley Camino tour. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Marley. Stage is all yours.
Hi everybody, I'm so happy to share with you my experience in my first Camino. I would like to thank Peter and the foundation for inviting me. I'm so happy to show some pilgrim here. Bob, thank you for coming, everybody. Okay, I would like to share my history. My name is Ligia Margarita, and everybody called me Marley. This is why I named the company Marley Camino. Okay, I am from Venezuela. I left Venezuela in 1994. And I did my first Camino in 2004 when I was living in Miami. This is the reason my English is so bad, okay? I'm sorry. In Florida, everybody speaks Spanish. I have a so beautiful experience in my Camino because when I did my first Camino, you know, I have a very time in my life. I am divorced. I lost my job. The same that Peter. I was very difficult time. You know, I have everything in my mind. You know, my mom have a cancer. You know, when everything happened in the same time, this is what I decide. I need to do the Camino. Believe me, you don't have idea how the Camino helped me a lot, because, you know, it's allowed me to disconnect from everything. I have time to thinking, to reflect, you know. I have time, I always say, I have time to listen my mind, to listen my heart, because in our dial day, we have a lot of noise, you know. You always with the cellular phone, you always with the talking, everybody talking. And in the Camino, you really enjoy the silence, believe me. And you can listen your heart, you can listen your thinking. It's so beautiful. I love to write, the same that Peter, maybe Peter composed a song, but I love to write, and I try every time when I finish my stage, I write everything that I feel in that moment, or everything that I am thinking, because, you know, sometimes you are walking and you don't know why you are thinking in something. It's because you have time to think, you know, and to listen, your head, your heart. I write a lot. It's incredible. When I come back, it's incredible. Everything that I wrote, you know, now I have to work in the Camino because this is my mission. You know, I enjoyed a lot the nature. I enjoyed a lot the conversation with other pilgrims, because I think the most beautiful part that you enjoy in the Camino is the humanity. You know, the connection with the weight of the connection with other pilgrims is very special, you know, it's incredible. Sometimes you talking with someone and you cry because, you know, you open your mind, you open your heart, and you talk with everybody. Everybody in the Camino, every pilgrim is like a beautiful family. I think it's the only place on the world nobody asks you, where are you from? Believe me. Everybody is a pilgrim, everybody. Everybody doesn't know if you are a president of the bank, if you are a director, no. You know, it's beautiful, the humanity that you can live on your Camino. I think it's the most beautiful part. I enjoy it for myself. This is the best time to be by myself, you know, because I never have time for this. I always thinking that the worst part in the Camino, the more difficult part on the Camino is, you know, is when we find ourselves. The most difficult part no is when you down, up or down the Camino. No, believe me, the most difficult part is when we find ourselves, our sadness, conflict, humor, you know, everything. This is the most difficult part, but it's the perfect time when something happens like this, because sometimes I don't know why I cry. It's the same in our life, you know, someday you wake up very happy, someday you want to cry, and you don't know. The Camino is the same, but it's incredible because you receive a lot of sign, a lot of message. No, you know, if you walking will open your mind, open your heart, it's incredible. All the sign that you can receive on the Camino, believe me. It's so beautiful experience. I can share a lot with everybody. I have time to be alone because all the pilgrims respect you if you want to be alone, you know? It's important. The Camino, believe me, changed my life because when I arrived to Santiago, when I come back to Miami, you know, I feel so different. I think my problem, you know, I think more objective about my problem. I think, believe me, the Camino's changed my life. I decided the same year in 2004 when I completed my Camino, I moved to Spain with my 2 children alone. And 2 years after, I found the Marley Camino because, you know, I feel that I need to transmit my experience because the Camino is a deep that you can, in your heart, always. The experience you never forgot, believe me. It's a beautiful experience.
Thank you so much, Marley. That was a terrific story. And yeah, out of that, Marley had a transformation, and she's now been at this Camino business for over 14 years, and it's an award-winning organization. We'll learn a little bit more about that as we get moving along. What we'd like to do right now is we're going to play a snippet of a song I wrote. It's called Alchemy Gold.
Set my compass with arrow pointing north to the sycamore tree where I first set forth. On my treasure trove, but the touch of a kiss, perfume of my love on the lavender winds. Look for omens, look for signs.
All right, that's great. Hope you guys like that. Alchemy Gold is a song I wrote about alchemy, which is a process of mixing a slice of what they call philosopher's stone and mixing it together with a bunch of stuff. It's like a cookbook. And my recipe was to combine life, a slice of life, with soul and some love. And that's how we get Alchemy Gold. The next speaker that we have is Pam Doughtery. She's from San Jose, California. I walked with Pam on my 2017 Camino. One thing that was really interesting that I noticed was that every morning at breakfast, we'd say, Pam, how's it going? I'm doing great. She was so exuberant. At the end of each Camino every day, each Camino segment during the day, I'd say, well, Pam, how'd it go? It was stupendous. Really? It was magnificent. Next day, it was out of this world. She had such energy, and you could tell that she was living life. So I thought I'd invite her to have her speak to you a little bit about her story. And here's Pam.
Well, hello. And thank you for your song because it reminded me of the pace of walking on the Camino. You just step, step, step. It was a very enjoyable remembrance of the Camino. For me, I did the Camino. I was happy. I didn't have any stress in my life, but I wanted to reattain something I'd done as a young person when I used to hike in the Sierras. And I would find that, just as Marley described, I would walk and walk and I'd think about things, and pretty soon there was nothing left to think about. And it was such a wonderful position to be in. So my goal when I started was to search for nothing. I wanted to reach that nothing state. And so anyway, off I went. And as a life happens, sometimes discoveries are presented. And so I actually found that I had something to think about. And that something was being judgmental, because here I'm walking along and everybody has a different story. And, you know, oh, I'd say that's a good story, or this is, oh, that couldn't be happening, and what all. And I really wanted to shed being judgmental about people. I just thought I'd keep working. And then one day, as I was walking, this terrific sign, and it was right nearby a place where the person who wrote The Alchemist, we had lunch, and there was a restaurant there in his honor. And the sign said, if someone criticizes or judges your Camino, you should hand them your shoes. And it was just like, whoa, that is, for me, it was just like, wow, that really hit right where I was. And I thought, heck, I've handled the heck out of that, you know, so no worries now. But, you know, I would continue to walk, and other little, I think that's the joy. And I see that some of you have done the Camino, the big yellow sign. You know, you just feel very confident. You're walking along. I'm reaching this place where it's just like, I don't have to think about anything. I'm just right there enjoying it all. And then I found that began to, there was a point when I didn't see the next marker. Now, all along the Camino, there are markers. Sometimes they're called bollards. They're big signs. Often they have the Camino shell, which pilgrims carry with them. Sometimes they get them at the end in showing their completion of the trip, but often they are just, you carry it along as a reminder that you're a pilgrim along the path. So they also are marked also with big yellow arrows saying, this is the path, you're on it, you're still on it. And I reached the stage where I was alone, no one was around, and I couldn't find a marker. And it was like, what do I do now? You know, and I thought, okay, well, I'll walk a few steps, but the worry was intense. And then I saw someone had spray painted a yellow marker in the middle of a road in the middle of nowhere. I mean, all that was around me were cows. And it was like, whoa, I'm on the path. I'm not lost. And I've sort of carried that with me in a funny way, that you are on the Camino even after you finish the Camino. The Camino is always there for you, the path, and you can find the path, and it's there. So it was a very comforting awareness. So those are sort of two of my stories on the Camino, and it was a joy. I mean, I just can't say how much fun it was. There were points when I was just by myself, and it was that glorious sense of just seeing the beautiful, beautiful country you're walking through. And then there were times I would meet up with Peter, and you'll meet Linda later. And it was just, oh boy, there's people here and we can share stories. So it was a great trip all around. And that's my Camino.
Well, Pam, thank you so much. We'll now listen to another song. This song, coincidentally, is called Signs. And I saw a lot of signs on the Camino as well, some physical and some spiritual. So I wrote about it. And be forewarned, on this song, you'll hear a bunch of huffing and puffing as somebody's walking. Well, that's me. That's the only singing I can do. I'm an awful singer, but that's my contribution to this song. So here we go with the song Signs.
Pilgrimage and long, long days, scallop shells on every post, arrows lead the way, feeling under pressure, walking to my beat, signs point to the Milky Way, roots light on my feet, Camino signs everywhere, Santiago by my side.
All right, thank you very much. Our next guest speaker is Linda Gomez from West Covina, California. Linda and I met on the 2017 Camino. We had not met each other before. And on the first day, we decided to just pair up. Everybody else started racing forward, and we were the only people there that were solo. So we just hooked up, and we walked that day in the pouring rain. On the second day, I was ready to go. She stands about 5 feet. I'm 6'1", and I'm like, okay. I walked with her on that first day. Now I'm ready to go. I'm going to get out there, be the leader of the pack. So I started taking off, and for a moment there, I just stopped. And I looked back, and I saw Linda, and she's like, you know, walking along, sort of like doing this. I learned that that's called the pilgrim shuffle, and that means that you have a blister. So I stopped, and I said, well, I'll go walk with her again. And what I didn't realize at that point was that Linda and I would walk together for 15 consecutive days. So she became my Yoda, and we just had a blast. What I learned is that, you know, there's a saying on the Camino, you walk at your own pace. What I did on my Camino was walk at Linda's pace, and I'm really glad that I did. And so now she's going to talk about her journey and a day or so that was very transformational for her. So without further ado, Linda, it's all yours.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Am I okay? All right. I had a travel bucket list. I wasn't going through any major stress necessarily, but I was looking at going to places that I'd gone to 30, 40 years ago, revisiting. And there were still 2 places left on my bucket list in about 2012. And one was Machu Picchu in Peru, and one was to walk the Camino. I made it to Machu Picchu that year. The movie The Way came out, which was mentioned before. And those accommodations and the things that you would visit along the way were a little rustic then, right, Marley? And I said, I don't think I'm that kind of a pilgrim. I think I want to have my shower, you know, my bed. I didn't want to struggle trying to find a place at 1 or 2 in the afternoon with another 50 people in a big, you know, camp room kind of position. And so anyway, I searched around and I found Marley, and it provided me what I was looking for, which was to walk it at my pace, but to have some comfort, not have to worry about schlepping the backpack, just a little day pack. And if I needed help, it was there. So I chose her, and it suited my schedule. We met our group the night before at a dinner, and we were asked to pick a word, which mentioned, you know, to remember a word throughout this session. And mine was revive. And I thought, well, okay, I'm just turning 70. Maybe this is the time I can revive myself. And the Camino was going to do it. And also, I'd been to Spain before, but I really wanted to get a little more in touch with some of my roots. So, like I said, Peter and I started out the first morning in the pouring rain. And we were in and out of sunshine, drizzle, pouring, soaking wet. And about 3 hours into our walk, I said to Peter, I said, I've gone blank. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, it's not like when you're trying to relate something and you forget the word and you say, I've gone blank. I said, no, I don't feel anything here. I had a lot of guilt, a little bit of guilt when I left, because I'd left my 95-year-old mother at home with caregivers. So there was a little bit of guilt, you know, I know she's going to be okay, but I'm going to do this. And it all of a sudden I had relieved my guilt, which allowed me to enjoy the journey. And we continued to walk, and Peter and I would have these woo moments when we'd come across, oh, that's a good word. And that ended up being in a lot of his songs. We were walking along, and then I got a cramp on the same day. The same day I went blank, I got a cramp. And this young couple passed us, came up upon us, who were from Switzerland. And she said, can I help you? And I said, oh, I got a cramp. And she said, I hear mustard works. And she pulls out a little packet of, you know, the little mustard packets you get at the takeout. And she said, it's supposed to help relieve the cramps. So I said, okay. So I ate it. I ate the whole packet. Then I started choking. And I'm going to Peter, water, water. I sounded like Quasimodo. And that became our slogan along the way when we needed water. And then I drank the water and continued to walk, and the cramp did go away. So I don't know if it was the mustard or I just worked it out. We talked about peeling back your layers, and Peter said, oh, you know, you're like an onion, you know, peeling back your layers. I said, I don't want to be no onion, you know, I want to be a blooming rose. And as we continued going, I just think everything became more vivid. because there was this relief, this release that happened, even with my blistered feet, which I continue to walk because I was determined to finish it. And at the end of the day, our guide would just tape my feet up, and I would get up the next day and start all over again. And it was an overwhelming experience that is really hard to explain until you do it. And I suggest that everyone try it. You're never too old to do it. And if you're too tired, there's always somebody there that can help you. And everybody's walking along saying, Buen Camino, Buen Camino. And I remember the first time that first day again, where Peter and I were walking in this open stretch with cows and whatnot. And this farmer on a tractor goes across and he says, Buen Camino. And we looked at each other and said, that's our first real Buen Camino. You know, we were so excited. And so that's my Camino.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. That was fantastic. So we're going to hear a song now called Go Blank. This is based on Linda's story. It's sung by a male singer, so the roles are a little bit reversed, but this is a true story about Linda. Here we go.
To the heavens with a great surprise. Gained a new perspective while walking the way. He placed colors on my canvas and learned how to break your brain. Color canvas with my prayers. I go blank.
All right. That's a great song. Thank you so much, Linda, for your inspiration. I guess that my word for that would be inspired creativity. Next guest is Anita Baroldi from Lake Forest, California. Get this. She's walked the way, but she's also walked 11 different caminos in Spain. So she certainly has had a calling, and she's going to speak about her adventures. So here I'd like to introduce you, Anita.
Buen Camino, everyone. One of the best gifts in this life of mine that I've given myself is my experiences of walking the Camino. I'm unusual to some of you because when I decided to go on the Camino, I found many of the people I knew had never heard of it. I couldn't find anyone to go with me. And my husband said, you know, I would pay someone to go with you because I'm worried about you. So that didn't happen. I made a reservation on an airplane, and then everything else became a decision of the day. And some days there are many decisions. I was once a psychologist in my younger days, and we used to use an abbreviation called OCD. It means obsessive compulsive disorder. However, now I call it obsessive Camino disorder. And that's why I go every year to get myself full of spirit, full of love, full of celebration of life with people I might not ever see again, but it's the biggest gift to me. So I carry a few poems of words of encouragement that first year in a little plastic bag, a little sandwich bag, so I could settle myself down from the fear of the unknown. I chose The Course of Miracles by Marianne Williamson, and Nelson Mandela made this popular in his freedom speech. I'm just going to quote a few little lines from there. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Playing small does not serve anyone. And as we have our light shine, we give other people permission to do the same. So that's one of my biggest lessons from my first Camino, and it still goes on. Therefore, I choose to take this pilgrimage that is usually 33 or more days, depending on where it is. All the different ways so I could have a greater experience. This allows me an opportunity for the inner alchemy of my spirit to start its work of transformation. And I suggest everyone, if you have not read The Alchemist, it's wonderful. So I go alone and I walk with people from all over the world. We are so similar, even though we appear different. In many do not speak the same language. However, we use pantomime. We might run into someone else who can be an interpreter for us. The purpose of this life is its direction. I find that the people I meet enhance and encourage me on this journey of self-discovery. Even though we might not speak the same language, there's always some way through it. And that is one of the miracle blessings of the Camino. We have to find a place to wash our clothes, sleep, and eat a late dinner, and start the process the next morning, pardon me. I am so fortunate to have found this great way to celebrate my life on the Camino. And that is my word. Celebration of life is what I've decided. There is always someone around the corner, if I need help, that helps me. And we say that the gift of the Camino is what it gives you. If you run out of something, somebody else might have that product you need. I treasure the village people that I meet as I go into each village. I treasure the pilgrims. I'm so fortunate that I can celebrate my life with so many pilgrims year after year. It is my addiction. I love my addiction. And I thank Peter for allowing me to speak. Namaste and buen camino.
Anita, that was a phenomenal story. Thank you so much. You know, after producing my 14th Camino song, I had somewhat of your addiction as well. I felt that something was missing from my album. So I said, well, what is it that when you go on this journey, this Camino, where you go to a destination? And so we actually ended up in Santiago de Compostela. And what did we do when we all get there? Or what did I do? We celebrate. So I decided to write a song called Celebration and incorporate into that some of the feelings that I had and how much I missed the Camino and that I wanted to go back. So here's the song Celebration.
Come on, it's an invitation. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Come on, join the celebration. It was time to go home with a fresh new mind.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that song. Yes. Our last guest is Alex Milser. He's the head of operations for Marley Camino. He will speak to you briefly about the Marley Camino experience and some of the tours that Marley Camino offers. After he's done, I'll say a couple closing words, and then I'll pass the baton over to Robin and Diana to close out the event.
Well, thank
Alex?
you, Peter. Hi, everyone. As you've heard from the beautiful testimonies of all these happy pilgrims, the Camino is a deeply transformative, very, very meaningful experience to anyone that has done it. Okay? We at Marley Camino just want to take this already tremendous experience and take it to the next level. And we do that through what we like to call the Marley Touch. Okay? What is the Marley Touch? The Marley Touch is not having to worry about anything other than putting one foot in front of the other. That's basically all you have to do, is just worry about your walk. If you do, the pilgrimage on your own, which is an amazing experience as well, is you have to carry your backpack. You might have to, sleep in the albergues with, 100 people to a room. If you're tired, well, you other pilgrims might assist you, but you know, there may be things that make the Camino slightly less comfortable than you know, some people might like it. So we at Marley Camino specialize in offering both self-guided and guided tours. Okay, we cover most of the most popular routes of the Camino, but we really recommend if this is your first time, you should really walk the French way, which is the traditional route, what most people like to call the Camino. Okay, I think most everybody here that has talked about their experience has been an experience on the French way, and we offer both guided and self-guided tours. You know, 16-day tours, 12-day tours, 10-day tours, 8-day tours. We offer private custom tours that can be, you know, anything you like. You can start from any point that you prefer. Okay, on our guided tours, which is our specialty, we have amazing guides with a wealth of knowledge. You know, they'll explain even, you know, the slightest thing that you might not even notice. They'll, you know, tell you, you know, an amazing story about something that might seem small and not important. We also have a support vehicle that is with you throughout the whole way. You know, if you ever feel tired, you can't walk anymore, all you have to do is contact your guides. They'll come and pick you up. You can ride with them. You can, you know, go to the next checkpoint. That vehicle is fully stocked with snacks, drinks. Your luggage is there, so you can access your luggage all the way. You know, you don't have to carry your backpacks. We do that for you. All the accommodations are top notch. They're usually traditional Galician manor houses, tended to by their owners. So you feel a real connection, and that's the most important thing. You know, this is not a tour. This is a Camino experience. Okay, so the important thing is that, you know, once you're done, you know, it's said that the Camino starts after you arrive in Santiago. Okay, that's when the real Camino starts. And, you know, our intention is for you to start your Camino with, you know, the best energy possible. And, you know, we do everything that we can to make that the best experience it can be. So, you know, if you're interested in walking the Camino, please feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to assist you in any way you need.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was wonderful. You know, Anita mentioned this thing called the Camino disorder that affected her, and I had something different. I caught something back in March. It's called the COVID disorder. And what I did is I started walking. And if I add it up right now, I've walked about 180 consecutive days and logged in over 1,000 miles. So I had a lot of time to think. And during that period of time, I wrote a bunch of songs. And I wrote 4 songs, and I did 3 pieces of artwork. I like to combine the art with the song. And what we're going to do in the near future is I wrote one song. It's called 39 Days of Camino Glory. Just like Pam, I felt that every day on the Camino was glorious. You know, you're alive. That's number 1. 2, there's a purpose behind all this. It's just not coincidence. So I wrote a song called 39 Days of Camino Glory, and we're going to release that on Instagram over 39 days. And every 3 or 4 days, there will be a new song that we're going to release. So we'll make sure that you guys are kept abreast of that particular event on Instagram. Before I go, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's event. I really enjoyed being your tour guide today. I hope you enjoyed listening to these stories of people on the Camino, pilgrims as we call them. And I'd just like to extend to you, Buen Camino. With that, I'm going to pass it back over to Robin and Diana.
Oh, thank you, Peter. I love this presentation. It was so real to hear from the people, and everybody was just glowing with their experience. It made me feel really excited. And I don't know if I'll ever get there. I'm 79, and I don't think my husband would go with me, so I don't know. But I feel like I'm traveling along with you as you're telling us about it. And your music was so great. I think one of the things I loved most was how you reinvented yourself in so many new creative ways. Okay, I want to reintroduce Robin. Robin is the president of the Inside Edge Foundation, and she's been so involved in getting us on Zoom and getting all of our social media organized so that we can gather a good crowd. And she's going to explain how we're going to do our breakout rooms this morning.
Thank you, Diana, and thank you, Peter, and all of you pilgrims, and Alex and Marley. I mean, it's really inspiring to really hear the real stories. I always wonder, why do people do that? But I'm starting to get the picture. So anyway, we, as all of us, are going to do a virtual, hopefully we've traveled, like Diana said, a little bit virtually along with them on these this experience and the stories. But if we were going to start the Camino today, what would our word be? What would our kind of theme emerge as? And when we were in our initial meditation, I asked you to think about some words, and I spoke them. And you might find the word that you remember thinking was most interesting for today. You might find it on this list. These are some that were mentioned by the pilgrims who spoke as well. And part of the, what I understand is part of the process the night before, as you all gather before you start walking, is to select, you get a yellow arrow, which is one of the way showing signs for the trip. And in your own arrow, what would your own word be? And so I'd like you to now either pick the word that you had come up for you earlier today, or right now in this moment, pick one of these words or a different word that's really alive for you now. And we'd like to explore that in our breakout room. So if you were walking the Camino today, what word would you start with? Let's share that with each other. And the second thing I'd like you to share with each other in the breakout room is what really touched you from the stories you heard today? What really connected for you that might help be an inspiration for your life, whether you do the Camino ever or not in Spain? How can you take something away from the stories and incorporate it into your own pilgrimage in life? So what's your word and what inspired you in the stories today? Those are your breakout room questions. We're going to be 4 people in most rooms. We'll have 4 people, about 2 minutes each to share, and then we'll regather after that. You will need a timekeeper in your room, just so you kind of notice when everybody gets 2 minutes. So everybody gets an opportunity, and there'll be a warning 1 minute before we come back.
We have a little extra time for some Q&A, or even a comment about what you experienced in your breakout room, or an insight that you had, or here you are. Okay.
Yeah, I was fortunate in my group to have Linda, who yeah, got it, who was one of the walkers on the trail. And I just want to say that it was very inspiring, everything she said. But the question that I asked her was, and that's because I'm also doing daily walks now since COVID. I can't go to the gym, so I do something. I go on my walks, and I've only walked as far as 5 miles. I said, well, what's the difference really of, doing that than doing the Camino? Like, so why is doing the Camino more awakening and inspiring and everything else that, that everybody says it is, than doing your daily walk? And what she shared with me is that, like on my walk, and I walk around Woodbridge North Lake, I see the same thing over and over and over. Like, oh, what flowers did they plant today? Oh, I didn't see that cat there yesterday. And oh, look, there's not as many ducks in the lake today as there was yesterday. Oh, where's that baby duck? So it was, but like she said, every single day is a new day. And I just want to ask a question of the others that have walked it, is that what you would say is the difference between walking the Camino as opposed to just doing your daily walk, as far as getting this big enlightenment awakening? So that's my question.
I think that's also, for me, when I wrote a lot of these songs, these stories come from people. And so we would meet a lot of people from, within the group that I went with. There were about 9 walkers. Then we had a tour guide and a bus driver that would advance our luggage. And I just generated a lot of excitement and understanding, compassion from the people I walked with. And I can't get that when I see the same thing over and over and over, like I did over these past 180 days that I've walked. So that's my answer is people and the stories, you know, living life along with them, hearing their stories, and then you learn from them.
Yeah.
Pamela or Anita
Yes.
or anybody else want to answer?
So, you know, the scenery is spectacular, and it does free you from, I guess, for me, it freed me into just sort of experiencing and challenging myself a bit. In one area, it was a windy road through a plain, but there were sunflowers on either side. Mind you, they were really spent sunflowers, but still it was dramatic scenery. And I just felt, mind you, there was nobody ahead of me for miles and there was nobody behind me. And I just, you know, I feel like jogging. And even though I'd been carrying, you know, mind you, you carry a tiny little pack, I just broke in. It was just the celebration of running. You know, I just ran for a little bit and I was just like, wow, you know, and so you can do different things at different times, or maybe one of the hills is a little steep and you know, you're huffing and puffing, and then there'll be the top of the mountain and you'll see out over a huge valley. It's just, well, it's a sweetness for the soul. I mean, just to see these different scenes, and they are so varied and different, and I just loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
I saw Brooke with his hand up, I think. Did you want to ask a question, Brooke?
Yeah, but so where do you sleep? Very pragmatic question.
Well, Brooke, if you do the Camino on your own, there's a huge variety of different sleeping situations. You can go to the traditional albergue or pilgrim's hostel, which is, you know, this big room with you know, tons of beds, communal everything, communal shower, communal cooking, you know, all sorts of
Fleas are here.
Well,
Bed bugs. Bed bugs.
bed bugs can be a problem in these places, but now they're really, really good at disinfecting everything when everyone leaves. They change sheets. It's not such a big problem, but it's not the most comfortable situation because the main thing is that you can't make reservations. It's first come, first serve. So if you're doing it with the albergues, you know, it turns a bit into a race. You know, you have to get there before beds are out. But then there's in all the Camino towns where there's the end of a stage, a little hotel industry has grown around it. So there's all, you know, hotels from 1 star to, you know, all the way to very fancy guest houses. You know, you have all the options. And of course, in the bigger cities, let's say, you know, you arrive in León or Burgos or Pamplona, well, there you have, you know, options like big chain hotels and anything you'd like. For example, on our tours, since we prefer to keep smaller groups, then we use the guest houses, the more traditional traditional manor houses, you know, so you get a more cultural, a bit of an understanding of the culture. Okay.
That's so great. Yeah. Thank
It's
you.
kind of like, if you want, you can be reborn as a student traveler.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. You know, I mean, it's an experience. It's something you can mix and match. You can do, you know, one day at the albergue and then the next day at the 5-star with the jacuzzi.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Anita, did you raise your hand? Was that?
I just, all of my 11 times, I've never not had a place to stay. So.
Great.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Buen Camino.
Buen Camino.
I grew up on a street called El Camino Drive in Baroldi.
There's no coincidences in life. That's a sign.
I take everything as a sign. I loved what you said, Peter, at the beginning about hearing, follow the path. You know, the Inside Edge exists because I got a similar message about something to do that would bring people together. So
Well, thank you.
that was meaningful for me. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.